So it's been a while since we talked about the actual current sales of Street Fighter V. So that's what this video is going to be about, plus, why it had such a rocky launch, and why the sales seem so low. So on February 16th, which was almost exactly a year ago, Street Fighter V launched with 1.4 million copies sold. And in case you guys forgot, their sales target for launch was to hit 2 million copies sold. Obviously not hitting the mark. Fast forward to December, 2 months ago, the total sales from launch to now went from 1.4 million copies sold to 1.5 million copies sold. So in the last year, till now, Street Fighter V has only sold an additional 100,000 copies. Yikes. This is despite having the free included new story mode, the large story mode, Evil, largest tournament, CPT, the grand final to the Capcom Pro Tour, rage quitting being fixed for the most part, 6 new characters, and I'm not sure if Akuma is included in the December forecast. But there's a lot of extra content added to the game. You could argue that they didn't fix enough things, but they did fix some things, man, within the last year. There were a lot of problems with Street Fighter V. But despite all of this, only selling 100,000 additional copies is really scary. Now, the initial poor launch of the game definitely had its reasons. There's no doubt about that. The problem with Street Fighter V is that Capcom's been playing catch-up of the game with the game ever since that rocky launch. So it's been haunting them ever since, basically. So, first off, the game being a console exclusive. I know it's also on PC, and it was a really good job on Capcom's part to make, the cross-play online together, both on the same servers. It was great for them to do that, and doing that all in-house. But it still doesn't change the fact that it didn't reach out to the largest audience possible, having on both Xbox, PS4, and PC, like Street Fighter IV did, for example. The next thing that really hurt the launch was the Skeletor content. The game was super bare bones due to it being heavily rushed. There was no tutorial mode. It wasn't that good when it came out anyways. No big story mode. All we had was the short story modes for each of the characters with quick cutscenes, and even the artwork in that story mode looked really heavily rushed. Small roster of characters, and no extra modes in general. We had survival mode, but even that was done very poorly, even though it was an extra mode. They could have made that a lot of fun, but it wasn't. It was more frustrating than ever, especially when trying to get colors. Broken servers at launch, plus rage quitters, plus all the PC issues that they had as well that are exclusive for Steam, including like even hooking up your buttons on your joystick. Huge problem when the servers are not working, they're down, when that's the only thing you're able to do in the game was play online. So yeah. And of course, finally, the AAA high price of the game. For a game with kind of a DLC structure where it comes out bare bones and they continue to add onto it over the years. Most of these types of games are either free or they're at a very low cost, but Street Fighter V came out at a full price AAA cost, and I think that really hurt, especially with the bad reviews of the other issues with the game as a package as a whole. That just pretty much like seals the deal. Now, if we compare it to the Street Fighter IV launch sales, Street Fighter IV launched with 3.4 million copies sold. Now, this comparison is pretty unfair, obviously, because it came out for all consoles, including PC. Also, it came out in an era where fighting games were basically dead at that point. There was just such a huge gap between Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 4, and it just pretty much revived the entire fighting game scene. Street Fighter 4 launched in 2009. However, Ultra Street Fighter 4, which was released 5 years later, sold 1 million copies. So that's pretty close to Street Fighter V sales, if you think about it. It's really impressive considering, that was only a couple years ago. Now, Capcom plans to support this game as far as the year 2020. Another 3 years to go, guys. So Street Fighter V was obviously designed to be catered towards a more casual audience, but I think that Capcom missed the ball on this and didn't really realize what a casual audience wants in a fighting game, especially content-wise. Now, making a fighting game super easy to get into, of course, is a great idea, but the very bare bones tutorial didn't really help keep players playing. It doesn't help you teach the game to actually learn. So I think Capcom should focus more on teaching the game than actually dumbing it down rather than making crutches for people. So that when you have players that get into the game, that's great, But then you have other players that are good and already know stuff about fighting games, and they're obviously going to progress faster no matter how easy you make the game, and they're still going to lose to the same players. So if they improve their tutorial modes, it would help players get a chance, if they really want to learn the game, that the information is there and not scattered everywhere. And then, yeah, especially the community thing, but that's a whole other topic. But letting them know about what tournaments are going on and stuff, so they can see all the big channels, all the big websites, everyone that's helping them teach the game. Make it a big community thing so that newer players are able to learn and then able to enjoy the game rather than just scratching their heads trying to figure out themselves. They're always going to quit after a while when they can't learn. We keep sacrificing more and more mechanics in the Street Fighter series, and we keep going backwards, I feel, to the point where we're losing depth. I really think we're losing depth at this point, which can make the game feel like stale really, really fast. And it doesn't help now that, you know, frame data, hitbox information is easier to get these days now, which we can really speed up how fast we learn these games. So if the game is not super deep and there's not too many mechanics to it, then of course it'll get stale quickly. Now, I don't think casuals care too much, like I said, about how easy the game is. I think it only becomes a problem if 1v1 online matches, like 1v1 ranked, is literally the only thing you're able to do. Then, of course, it's a problem. Because if there's other things to do, like a big story mode, or make the trials like super hard, or add a community things where you're playing with your friends, or like lobbies and all these things, other things to distract players to doing them, rather than just playing online and being competitive and just worrying about ranking up, then yeah, they're not going to care too much about, you know, the system mechanics. It's not that big of a deal to them. Street Fighter 4 had weird mechanics for sure. There's no doubt about that. Like having to link chains in order to cancel. You guys remember that shit? So if you go light punch, light punch, light punch, you have to delay that last one just so the special would come out. It was so weird. And true one-frame links. We had pro players in Street Fighter 4 that were still dropping their one-frame links, even with using an exploit with plinking, which wasn't even intended to be used in the game. They were still dropping combos. So yeah, taking those out in Street Fighter 5 made sense, for sure. But then Capcom just kept on hammering on the game with overly safe balancing, I feel. Like I really feel like Street Fighter 5 is missing like a core mechanic. Keeping the characters too similar, for example, universal things like only be able to do certain special moves when jumping forward, so you can't do anything like jumping back, making it so everyone has an option to deal with fireballs, etc. You get the idea. Just everything's just too similar. Like I said again, if there were other things to do in the game, people wouldn't be as concerned as much of like the tier list and the actual like mechanics of the game, since the only thing you can do is just play online ranked. And like I said, when you lose, it obviously makes you feel like you're not progressing at all because there's nothing else to do. And just a progression system in general, especially the newer types of games these days, have systems in place that even when you're losing, you feel like you're progressing because you're still playing. You're adding things, right? And just playing matches and gaining points from experience that way is just a lot better than actually seeing a rank up. And you're only going to rank up when you actually win a match. So, yeah. Now, it seems like Capcom was focusing more on the competitive side of things, focusing more on the tournaments and the esports scene, and not really trying to advertise the game or bring new players in. Now, the esports scene is definitely one of the biggest factors keeping Street Fighter V alive right now. Just last year, the immense size of the prize pot for the CPT was over $500,000 spread across various tournaments, which got a lot of pro players playing. Which gets a lot of viewers, and there's tournaments around every corner, a couple tournaments every month. It was insane. With the Red Bull tournament as well, we got EVO, the CPT. There's a lot on the esports scene, which is definitely one of the the highlights of Street Fighter V for sure. But how does this benefit Capcom just focusing on the esports part? Well, many players attending tournaments, which means a lot of viewers. A lot of viewers for Capcom means more sponsors. So that's definitely one of the ways for Capcom to generate more money. And of course, they've been going really hard on the DLC lately. Also, Capcom is finding ways for people to help contribute to the CPT pod by making that Capcom Pro Tour DLC pack, with the CPT stage, the Necalli costume, and the CPT colors, which I think was only purchasable with money, and 30% of that went towards the pot. And I think they generated a little bit over $100,000 to go towards the CPT pot due to the people buying that DLC. So other games do use that method as well, and it helps the esports scene grow with the game. However, I really feel that Season 2 needed more advertising, for sure. or at least a separate expansion disc. And I know that's taboo for a lot of you guys. Even Capcom said they're not going to make, an Ultra Street Fighter 5, etc. At this point, I really feel like they should have done it. I've talked about this before. They have nothing to lose at this point. I really feel like nobody knows about this game. I really feel like the casual players don't know that there's a lot more characters now, that things have been fixed, etc. I really don't think they know. There's even a story mode in the game right now. And I think an expansion disc would really help. Someone walks in a store, they see like a Super Street Fighter 5, like, oh, this must be the definitive version. They finally added more stuff to the game. It's more, more worth it. And at a discounted price, of course. Don't charge like, a full retail price for it. And to not hurt the players that have already purchased the original Street Fighter 5, just include the 6 DLC characters, which are free anyways with fight money. Just include them just so you don't feel like you were missing out. But I really feel like nobody knows about Street Fighter 5. It's been updated. It's just like forgotten. And especially with such a crazy saturated market in video games right now. Even for fighting games, there's a lot of fighting games to choose from. I feel like just having new characters in Season 2 in general is not going to help bring new players in. I've talked about this before. I feel like only returning characters, fan favorites, or guest characters from other games will bring in new players in, because they'll see them like, oh, finally my favorite character is back, I want to play Street Fighter now. Or, oh, cool, like, Nathan Drake or something, I don't know. Some fan of a different type of game would be like, oh, now I'm interested in Street Fighter now because I want to play my favorite character. But bringing in a brand new character, from their story mode or whatever, I don't think that's going to bring in new players. I think it's definitely interesting that they're doing that. It'll definitely keep players that are already playing in, but I don't think it'll bring in brand new players. And another thing with Season 2 in general is that Season 2 just came out of nowhere. It came really, really fast. And I feel like Capcom kind of missed the ball with that as well. They could have. I thought Season 2 was going to be like, a big gap between Season 1 and Season 2, a couple months, and then they come out with a bang with like all these new molds, new game mechanics. Like everyone has a second V trigger, for example, and then of course the new big balancing, and it was going to be like, the big definitive version of the game. But it wasn't like that. It's really going in really small increments right now, and if people don't know about the game, it just doesn't have as much as an impact on players that are not playing this game right now and not paying attention to the up-to-date news. So yeah, I really feel like Capcom missed the ball on that as well. Another thing is the game needs to be made a lot cheaper. The game right now for me on Steam is like $50 Canadian right now. Still, I feel like the game is too expensive right now. I feel like Capcom should just really hammer down that price, make the game super cheap, like 20 bones or even cheaper than that, and then bring in the new players into this game to make, because if it's like $15 or less, it's like, why not, right? There's so much content in the game from when it was first launched to now that it's like, man, 15 bucks, whatever, right? And then hammer them with the DLC, Capcom. Then get them with the DLC. Just start releasing, more swimsuit costumes or whatever. Get them that way. Because like right now, just getting someone to purchase the game is just, 100,000 copies in 1 year, man. Plus, another way is, of course, the esports scene. That's what Capcom is betting on. More players watching more hype tournaments will get people to be like, hey, man, maybe I'll pick up this game and learn it. But you definitely want to have that price tag low because it'll be more convincing that way for sure. Another thing, too, is Street Fighter Cross Tekken, man. That's when, everything started going downhill with Capcom's new way of basically rushing games, getting them out within like 1 year development cycles and stuff. Because Cross Tekken was definitely a really rushed game, had really shitty netcode, and just, so many problems with the gen system and all of that. But one thing about Cross Tekken is that Capcom listened to the community and they released this giant ass patch, this super giant patch for the game, and fixed a lot of the issues that it had. And after that, the game still died. So is Capcom scared about that from experience? Are they thinking, man, what's the point of doing this giant big patch for Street Fighter 5? Maybe people won't care anyways, just like happened for Cross Tekken. Maybe. I'm just trying to think of what's going on upstairs at Capcom with the dinosaurs upstairs, just looking at it from a numbers perspective. Is it worth, the juice worth the squeeze or not to do a big patch for Street Fighter 5? Or just do small increments and keep hammering out that DLC? So yeah, I feel like with Season 3 for Street Fighter 5, really looking ahead in this game, another year later, Season 3, I feel like they should go really hard on the advertising on this game and then make a big gap and just really release new system mechanics, right? Add more game modes and kind of launch us as if it's like a new Street Fighter game, just like they did with Super Street Fighter 4, Arcade Street Fighter 4, and Ultra Street Fighter 4. Really just like go out with a bang and let people know that this is like a brand new game. Have that kind of feel to it and not just do like small increments. So yeah, and of course add returning people to the roster. Fan favorites to the roster would be another huge factor on bringing new players into this game. So let me know what you guys think Capcom should do to boost the sales. And yeah, I look forward to checking out your comments below. Don't forget to like the video, guys, and be sure to subscribe, especially if you're new to the channel. And I'll keep you guys posted on more fighting game news in the future. So take care, everyone, and enjoy your weekend.